Hey y'all, Jamie here, proud 54-year-old trans woman from New Orleans. So, where last I left off, I had climbed on top of a boy that I'd been dating for 3 weeks, and afterwards I discovered he was a trans man. Yeah. His parents had paid for his surgery. I discovered it by seeing scars when I was going to light a cigarette after we were through having sex. Needless to say, I was surprised, taken aback, and fascinated. Honestly, fascinated. At that time, I had never heard of a trans man. I had only met trans girls. I didn't even know trans men existed, to be honest with you. And I was fascinated, but I was also very young and I was very immature. Later on in life, I dated a different trans man, had a totally different experience, had a great time with him. This one, Bo, his name was Bo. I told him that we could be friends. Like I said, I was young. Girl, I was, it was, I was immature. Give me a break. But we stayed friends. In fact, we stayed friends all the way until he graduated college years later and left town. Yeah. But, so we were all working at Fun Limited. Me and him stayed friends, but we quit dating. He would still come around Fun Limited where he met me at my job, but me, Terry, and Tracy were working at Fun Limited. And we worked there with two cis girls named Sugar and Darlene. And one night a customer came in and Sugar and Darlene introduced me and Terry and Tracy and said, he's a very important customer. We try to keep him happy here. So we said, okay. Barbara King was bartending. She had come from the Mile Mai. She was bartending there. This man started buying us all quadruple cocktails, champagne cocktails. $28 a pop. We made $8 each off of each drink. Then he started buying bottles of champagne. And then he told us what he wanted. And then Darlene and Sugar were like, yeah, we told you. He wanted us to go to the ladies' room and tinkle in glasses for him to pour into his beers. Listen, far be it from me to kink shame. I have my own kinks. We all do. We're all adults. But that one is... However, he paid dearly for that kink. So he was kept happy. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, when we weren't working at Fun Limited, we were hanging out and partying way too much. I was being way too much of a little hoochie, and I was being way too much of a partier, and we were hanging out at the Roundup on St. Louis Street whenever we weren't working. And there was a really tall, handsome guy that had come to town named Outlaw. He was from Alabama. I've always been a sucker for a hot guy with a southern accent. I know I'm from the South. You wouldn't think that accent would get to me, but it gets to me. Anyway, Outlaw had been a good time, not quite had by all yet, and I wanted to be next in line, to be honest. So I had my turn, and then Terry had her turn. Not the same night. Actually, the next night we did do him on the same night. We shared him. Yeah, me and Terry were, she was one of my best friends. We didn't have hang-ups about stuff like that. Yes, we had a three-way with him the next night and shared him. But the thing about Outlaw was a rather blessed boy. I don't mean in height. I mean he was huge. Huge. And I only let him get on top of me once. And by the time it was over, I was climbing the walls, like screaming, trying to get away from him. And I looked at him afterwards and I said, you know what? That was interesting to do once in life. I'm glad I can say I did it once. That will never, ever, ever happen again. You're not destroying me with that thing. Him and Terry, however, continued to have a good old time with one another and kept on seeing each other for like a couple of weeks. The thing about Outlaw was, he had a fetish for collecting locks of hair from the girls he had been with. He got a lock of mine. He had a lock of Terry's. He had a lock up, even though hers was short. You could tell which one was hers because she had, you know, her hair was still growing out from when they shaved her head in jail. But, yeah, he got a lock of hers, a lock of mine, and a lock of like 3 other girls. And he was wearing this earring real proudly with these locks of hair hanging off of it like feathers. And one night, we didn't know that he had an old lady back in Alabama. Yeah, he had an old lady who was another trans woman named Angie. And she was a dancer at the straight clubs in Alabama. And guess who walked into the damn bar? Angie. And there's her husband sitting at the bar wearing that earring with all of our hair on it. And guess who was the only one with shoulder-length platinum blonde hair that he had gotten a hold of? If y'all want to know what I did when she introduced herself, y'all know the routine. Be here tomorrow and I will too. Love you all for watching. I love you for the comments, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.